We said yesterday Texas A&M has to find a quarterback to come in and compete with Marcel Reed. Well, I think they found him in Jacob Zeno.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you why the all-SEC teams are a positive for the future for the portal and for this team in general. I'm going to talk a little bit about some more receivers who are going to be on campus for visit soon. It's clear Coach Elko is dialed in. That position is something we got to land. We got to hit hard. But we're going to start the show talking about the newest Texas A&M Aggie, and that is quarterback Jacob Zeno. And it's so funny that we talked about this on the show yesterday. And then just like that, you've got a new quarterback on roster. And what's even funnier about it is it really is exactly what we were looking for. You know, we talked a lot about needing a player. There was two routes you could have gone with quarterback, and I talked about this yesterday. Route one is go get, I guess there's three routes. Route one is you could go and get the $1 million quarterback to come in and more than likely be your guy if you don't believe Marcel Reed is the future. That was option number one. Option number two was to go get a quarterback from a lower level Division I school that was like a starter that you kind of envision him coming in and being your backup. But, you know, you tell him, hey, come in, compete for the job, see what happens. We likely have our guy, but come in, see what happens. Option three was bringing in a formerly high-ranked guy who was at a big school but never really kind of panned out and then ended up, you know, decided to hit the portal. But a guy, you know, with some high upside, a younger player. It seems like Texas A&M in Jacob Zeno went with the second option there. And if you want to hear something crazy about Jacob Zeno, I have been graduated from college for almost 2 years, and he was a freshman in college when I was a senior in high school. So that's interesting. That's interesting to me. He is a very old player, played a lot of seasons of college football. This will be his 7th season. That really is crazy. I mean, I'm 24 years old. How old is this kid? He's got to be my age, right? Let's see. He's got to be 24 or 25. Is it not going to say? Yeah, so he's my age. He was in the 2019 high school class. Okay, so he's my age. So he's probably around 24. Okay, that's interesting. I just find that hilarious that this guy's still playing college football. But it's good for Texas A&M. And, you know, kind of the point I want to make here is Jacob Zeno is the perfect quarterback for what you're looking for. He was option 2 of those 3 options I listed. We believe Marcel Reed is the future of this program. We believe he's the quarterback for Texas A&M for the next 2, 3, whatever years, right? We all believe that. Well, that would have made Miles O'Neal your backup this season, a guy who I believe there's upside there. I do. We know that he has a cannon for an arm, but he's young, and we're not 100% sure how good he's going to be. We believe there's an upside there, but we don't know that yet. The coaching staff, obviously, I think knows a little bit more than we do, but still the point stands. And so looking at a player like Jacob Zeno, he's perfect. He comes in, he's going to compete for the job. He's not going to win it. He's going to be your backup quarterback behind Marcel Reed. So you're going to have now an experienced veteran quarterback who has played a ton, and I mean a ton, of college football. So he actually had a great year in 2023 for UAB. 279 passes, completion, 379 passes, 279 completions, 73.6% completion percentage, 3,126 yards, 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Solid year. He also got sacked 28 times that year, which is absurd. That's crazy. But poor dude, 28 sacks. Goodness. But looking at this, to me, what stands out is that you win, you got exactly what you're looking for. And this is my favorite part of this Texas A&M coaching staff right now, something I discussed last offseason during the portal. They do a really good job of addressing issues, addressing things they need to fix, and fixing them. I mean, you can say the same about, we'll talk about receiver in a little bit. But I mean, I remember last year, everybody, and I mean everybody, all you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies, every Texas A&M fan kind of looked at this and went, oh man, like we need some players in that secondary. Coach Elko gets to campus, and the first thing he does is go absolutely hammer the secondary. And that was his first order of business. And it was, really, it's great to see that. And that's continued into this cycle. He's going right now. I talked about literally yesterday. Hey, I think, and it was funny because now I hadn't seen, if y'all had seen, let me know. But when I recorded that show yesterday, I didn't know that we were after Zeno. I found out later that evening. Obviously, he was on a visit and he ended up committing. But I just found it so funny that, like, hey, I asked, I'm like, Coach Elko, I think we need a quarterback to come in and kind of be your backup and compete for the job, but be a veteran in case something were to happen to Marcel Reed, we're going to have an injury, right? And then he just does it. It's just great to see. That's my point is Coach Elko and this coaching staff are addressing issues and fixing them. And that's really all you can ask of for a coaching staff. I mean, you have problems. There's problems all the time. You go and you recruit at a position, and the position just doesn't really pan out like you would have hoped. Maybe you go get a couple offensive linemen and they're not great, or you go get a couple receivers and they aren't that good. That stuff's going to happen quite often. It's about fixing, addressing. You've got problems and fixing them. Maybe it's a depth issue. There's a lot. It's not just talented. There can be lots of different reasons things don't work out. But Coach Elko has done that at quarterback. And Zeno's a guy, I mean, he's got the arm talent. He can move a little bit. There's a lot of upside in his game. Obviously, I believe he's more of a passer. He did carry the ball 91 times in 2023 when he had that good season. He carried it 37 times last year. So, he can move. He can do a little bit of both. There's no question there. But I do believe that at the end of the day, what they're kind of looking for here is a guy who can be a bit of a pocket passer, kind of a bit of both guy. And I think that is who Zeno is. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about the upside he possesses as a backup. I think he's going to come in, a veteran guy. He can help Marcel. You got to remember, the veteran on this roster was Wigman and Henderson, and they're the older guys, and they really haven't played a ton of college football. This is a real veteran that can come in and help these young quarterbacks and learn what they need to be doing. I like this. I think this is the perfect quarterback. He's a guy from Texas, from San Antonio. He started his career at Baylor. He understands Texas well. I think this is the perfect player to go fill the exact need that I was talking about on yesterday's show. So, is he going to play? No, I don't think so. Honestly, I think there's a world where Miles O'Neal does end up being QB2 after all this. That could happen. I mean, that realistically could happen. But I think that Zeno is going to come in and be a guy that can help you out in more ways than just play on the field. So I am excited to see what he's been able to do this year and how he's been able to push the rest of this roster. But now it gives you depth at the most important position on the field. It's great to lock that up early into the transfer portal period. We're going to talk about 2 wide receivers that the Aggies are after in the portal. We talked about 2 yesterday. We're going to talk about 2 more today. A lot of upside coming in the wide receiver room. I'll tell you why coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, on to about our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the fantasy football playoffs are here. And if I'm in 3 leagues, I only made the playoffs in 1 league. It's very sad. I'm disappointed in myself. I feel like I let my family down. I didn't show up this year. But if that's you, if you're like me and you didn't have a great fantasy football year, I did get to buy in 1 league. I just want to add that. I have 1 good team. But if you aren't in the playoffs, head over to FanDuel and have a great time. I do myself. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Texas A&M is now after 2 more receivers in the portal. The first is Mario Craver from Mississippi State, a kid from Birmingham, Alabama. He was a freshman this year for the Bulldogs, and hey, he had a good freshman season. 17 receptions, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns. The type of freshman season that, like, if he played for Texas A&M, if he was a true freshman for the Aggies this year and he was coming back next year, you'd be like, man, that Craver kid, he had a really good year. He's got a ton of upside. He's a guy that could be really, really, really good. And ironically, he had a good game against Texas A&M, 5 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown. So he's a kid that you could bring in, and he'd have a great rest of his career for you. I like this kid. If I had to rank him among the guys that we talked about yesterday and the guy we're going to talk about next, I'd probably have him at 4. That might rustle some feathers. Some might disagree. I think he's a great player, but I just think there's a lot more upside all around. I'm not saying I don't want him. Please go get Mario Craver. I think he's a great player. And I mean, I'm in the spot right now. Go get 4. I mean, like, we talked about 2 yesterday. We talked about 1 so far. We're talking about another player that A&M's after in the portal. Go get 4 receivers. I mean, go get 10. Like, seriously, I don't I don't think we're in a spot to be picky right now. And obviously, yes, you can go get some good players and be a little picky in that way. But what I'm getting at is you have to go get a bunch of these players that can come in and help your roster. You know, last year it was a little frustrating that the Aggies swung and missed on receivers in the portal. And I mean, Barber was fine. Allen was fine for the most part. It wasn't all terrible. Kind of more what I'm getting at here is the Aggies just got to find a way to get guys that can come in and have a serious impact. A player that I talk about a lot, and it frustrates me, is that Keandre Lambert-Smith kid that went to Auburn. His final 2 was Auburn and Texas A&M. I thought we had a good shot. He ends up signing with Auburn and going and having one of the most historic seasons. I didn't know this. Auburn hadn't had an 1,000-yard receiver since like the Great Depression or something absurd, and he was like 30 yards away from being their first 1,000 receiver. Like, he would have been a massive addition because he's just a darn good player. He would have been the perfect addition for the Aggies last year, and you didn't get him. You got to go get those guys this year, and I think Carver could be a great example of that. I think that, like, you could get, like, I don't think Carver. Now, if y'all disagree with me on this, let me know in the comments. I think he's a great player and I really want him. But what I'm saying is there's some players I want more, but we need a bunch of guys. Like, bring them on in. Come on. Craver, we could really, if I've been saying Carver, it's Craver. I literally know that. I just said Carver. But bring Craver in. I mean, he's a guy that can come in and really help this team quickly. The other guy who I'm a little bit more excited about is Nick Anderson, the former Oklahoma Sooner. So he didn't play last year due to an injury, but he was an absolute menace in 2023. 38 receptions, 798 yards, and 10 touchdowns. I've seen a lot of people in the comments saying, Andrew, I like Concepcion. I'm sure people say, I like Craver, right? But I think that the player that people have been saying, we need some tall receivers, some big guys. Obviously you had Noah Thomas on the roster, but then you had a lot of your Jabri Barbers and Cyrus Allen's, a little bit, some shorter guys. And Nick Anderson is 6'4", 219 pounds. He would be an absolutely perfect addition, a guy that possesses so much upside, it's actually scary how good he can be. I think that if I had to rank right now the receivers that Texas A&M is after, if I had to rank them, I'm going to write this down. I think I would go Hudson, who we talked about yesterday, Anderson, Concepcion, and then Craver, if I had to rank them. Let me know in the YouTube comments, how would y'all rank those four players in your, in the order of how bad you want those players. Now, once again, I would like all four of them. That is what I would prefer, but that's not going to happen. These are some expensive guys when it comes to NIL. You're not going to get all four of these guys. You could maybe get two of them. I don't see you getting three. Definitely, obviously not four. So Hudson, Anderson, Concepcion, and Craver is the order I would rank these guys in order of how much I want, them. But I mean, they're all great. Like, if Hudson, Anderson, and Concepcion weren't in the picture, we'd be like, man, this Craver kid's a really good addition. He's a great player. He is. It's just there's a lot. Some of the best receivers in the portal are eyeing Texas A&M right now. So that's kind of the way I look at this. I think there's upside there with all these players, and I'm really excited about them, and I'm really excited to see which of these guys end up picking A&M. The other thing I want to talk about in this segment before we move on to talk about why the all-SEC teams are helpful for this program. So the offensive line is enough. Like, to this point, I think offensive line probably is the second most important thing you need to go hammer in the portal, because I just really want this unit to go from being okay, being good, to being elite. You got to take that next step. I want to see Texas A&M start really hammering after some offensive linemen in the portal. I think that they're hyper-focused on receiver right now, which is good, because you really need to go get some great players in the portal at the wide receiver position. Like, there's no question that you have to go do that. But at the same time, looking at this, you've also got to find a way to and look right there. Okay, here we've got some news. I hope this doesn't happen before I post, but Pete Nakos just put in a prediction for Micah Hudson to commit to Texas A&M. So it hasn't happened yet. If it does happen before I get to post this, well, here, you'll all have heard it. But that's huge. I mean, once again, I just gave you my list. Hudson is number one on my list. So that's a very positive. And if he does commit, we'll get to talking to that when it happens. But offensive line's the position now that you're kind of starting to dial things in a receiver, I would start focusing. I just don't want you to be like, okay, we're focused on receiver, then we're moved to offensive line. And before you can make that move, some of the great players are already at new schools. I think it's really important to kind of get on it early, get on it often. So I would love to see Texas A&M start to get after some offensive linemen, just like they're doing with these receivers, because they're knocking that out of the park early. We're going to talk about why the all-SEC teams are such a great thing for this program. in the future. And I'll tell you why coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite, and right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com, plus score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners here at Locked On Aggies get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. That's 50% off at Omaha Steaks, OMAHA steaks.com, and an extra 30% off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. So 5 Texas A&M Aggies ended up making all SEC rosters. Le'Veon Moss makes the second team. Will Lee makes the second team. Trey Zune makes the third team. Shamar Stewart makes the third team. And then, of course, Nick Scorton makes the first team. So I want to tell y'all why I think this is positive. The first reason this is positive is looking at, you're trying to sell to players, right? You are trying to sell to these transfer portal players. And if you're kind of eyeing down one of the best defensive linemen, edge rushers in the portal, right? Say, hey, look at this proof of concept we've put together with Nick Scorton. Come be the next Nick Scorton. Come be the next Will Lee for our team. Come transfer here and make a mark and come and be an all SEC type of player in our program. I think that's the positive there. The other positive is players like Le'Veon Moss, players like Trey Zune, and then and Will Lee. I haven't seen a decision on Will Lee. Was he a junior this year? I have not seen a decision. He was a junior, so he is eligible to go. I haven't seen a decision yet from him on if he's going to go or not. I just looked that up. So if y'all see that, let's see. Will Lee. If y'all see a decision come from him, let me know. But no, I have not seen a decision come from him yet. I'm looking. So yes, if you hear anything on that, let me know in the YouTube comments. If you hear anything on Willie, haven't heard anything yet. But that should get you excited for, I think, the future at some of those important positions. Offensive line, you've got an all-SEC player who more than likely is coming back unless he does go pro. And then you've got, once again, another great offensive lineman that's going to be a running back that more than likely is going to be coming back too. You've got some players that heading into next season, there's going to be a ton of excitement and ton of upside around. So I think there's a lot of excitement to be had about the future of this program with some elite all-SEC players, with some elite upside young guys. And now you can go to some players in the portal and say, look what we did with Will Lee. Look what we did with Nick Scorton. Come in and be the next Nick Scorton. Turn yourself in to a first-round draft pick with your play here in the SEC. You're coming from a little bit smaller school. You're coming from the ACC, whatever. Come here and prove that you can become an all-SEC player. Turn yourself into a pro at Texas A&M while getting some solid NIL money with the best fans, the best atmosphere. I think this is a proof of concept thing that you can really push across to some recruits in the portal, and that could be a very helpful thing for the Aggies. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great rest of your day today. Hopefully we get some big portal news throughout the rest of the day today, and I'll bring that to y'all tomorrow. We'll see. Hopefully something happens with Hudson. Stay tuned, because if that happens, we will talk about it. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see y'all tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.